Hey, BA fam. I just learned Discover credit cards do something pretty awesome. At the end of your first year, they automatically double all the cash back you've earned. Whoop, whoop, that's right. Everything you earned doubled. All the cash back from eating at your favorite soup dumpling restaurant doubled. All the cash back from that trip where you sort of learned to snowboard also doubled. And the best part, you don't have to do anything ridiculous to get it. Nope. Discover does it automatically. We love that. Seriously though, see terms and check it out for yourself at discover.com/match. Hey, BA fam. We have an awesome, amazing episode with one of our faves, the Amanda Seales. But before we get her to come on, we need to talk Webby's chat bat real quick. Okay? We're slaying at the Webbies or whatever. I think we're 53%. Yeah.
Oh, the dream catchers. They always bring it home for us.
Girl,
dream catchers.
Well, the thing is, even before the dream catchers, we was already slaying. But, I was like,
we were slaying. Definitive KO.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
We want a TKO.
Like I said, I want to be in the black, like Wakanda black. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I don't want to be stressed and pressed. I want to.
So it's super, like, because when's the last day of voting?
The last day of voting, actually, this is, yes, perfect timing because the last day of voting is this Thursday, April 20th. So
if you're listening to the sound of our voice, go ahead on over to brownambitionpodcast.com. And there is a beautiful banner that Mandy put up there. And you can literally click and vote for our podcast. It's nominated. And although right now we're 53% of the votes, which, is just a slight lead. It would just be nice to not have anybody sliding at the last moment.
And it's the people's choice. So
yes.
It means a lot.
Yes.
And hey, we are 53%. Ooh.
I know. Me and Mandy are a trip. We're like,
oh, it's just nice.
Right? It is.
It was so fun last year, and I was so sad that you couldn't come. It's May 15th though, so if you free, I'm free. We going.
You know what I mean?
If we win,
sure. Yeah. I don't. Let me put it on my calendar because obviously,
please come.
The producer broke the third wall. She said, "I'm coming."
Of course, you're coming.
Right? So I'll put it on my calendar right now. BA.
Yes.
It's a Monday when we normally would tape our podcast.
It's a Monday.
BA.
Yes. It's a good time.
Look, I'm already like, am I counting the chickens before they hatch? Webby Awards?
No.
Is that
manifest? No, manifest it, babes.
Yeah, so I'm excited.
I'm going to get me a sitter. I'm going to have a 911 on, I'll have them speed dial. It's fine. Worst case scenario, I'm only like an hour drive from the hospital, so I'm fine. It'll be a good story. Yeah, so excited, y'all. But let's put the Webbies aside for a second and focus on today's guest. I cannot wait for y'all to hear this interview. Without further ado, here's our chat with the one, the only Amanda Seales.
Hey, we're back, we're black, we're brown, ambition. Yo, we super black. We're midnight black today. We are Wakanda black on today.
Smart, funny, and black today.
What? Hey. Smart, funny, and black today because we have the most awesome guest in the stew that has just turned the blackness up another notch, And so, first of all, Mandra, how are you, girl? Because your curls are popping.
I'm so excited to talk to Amanda Seales. I don't know. I can't handle myself. I was trying to find, I want to know if you wrote this bio for yourself because I just loved it. Can I please read this bio from your website for Smart, Funny, and Black? I
absolutely wrote this bio myself.
I can tell, and I wish more people. I'm going to read it because y'all need to know. You probably know her as I do from Insecure. You loved her on that show, but she is so much more. And after, closing out that chapter has just blown up and is doing so many incredible things. She is, I feel like, first and foremost, a comedian and a creative visionary. And she's educated. So when she says smart, she means it. Master's in African American Studies from Columbia University. You also went to undergrad with my husband around the same time, SUNY Purchase. What?
Interesting.
After seamlessly blending humor and intellect, her unique style of smart, funny content spans various genres. She's best known for her iconic role, I would say it's iconic, as Tiffany Dubois of HBO's Insecure. Her debut stand-up comedy special, I Be Knowin', as a former co-host on the daytime talk show The Real, which I think Tiff's been on a couple times, and the host of NBC's Bring the Funny. She is the host and writer of the 2020, you were the host, right? The 2020 BET Awards. She speaks truth to power via her incredible Instagram feed at Amanda Seales, plus has a weekly podcast called Small Doses and a book by the same name. It continues to go on, okay? Always an advocate for Black voices, she founded Smart Funny and Black Productions to produce and create art as edutainment across the media landscape by any joke necessary. This is my favorite part. As a Jedi Khaleesi, respect. With the Patronus that's a Black Panther with wings, Amanda Seales continues to keep audiences laughing, thinking, and living in their truth. What? And she's here on Brown and Bushin'.
Hello. It's great to be here.
When do you sleep, my friend?
I actually get a lot of sleep. I don't play about the sleep.
Okay.
I mean, I wake up. I find that I can't sleep when there's like a issue that's hovering overhead. Then I end up waking up at 5:30. And I mean, this is clockwork. Like, it's always 5:30. I wake up at 5:30, like, you cannot sleep on this. You must fix this. And then I hop to it. Like, there's an issue hovering overhead right now. So I've been up since 5:30.
Which of the many? I hopped on IG earlier to see what you had. And it's like, Amanda has posted 11 times since you last came here. I said, what? I was on here yesterday.
I'm doing a post right now while we're talking because I have to post this. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but I have to post this video for Justin Pearson supporting the rally for him because they are going to vote to reinstate him. And he doesn't have the same support as Representative Jones did in Nashville.
We just talked about that. Like we literally were just talking about that, like how crazy that is. And I'm like, ain't these people tired? Like, damn, what does it take?
They're not fueled by the same thing, so they're not tired.
Yeah,
if they were tired, like Mitch McConnell wouldn't be alive. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because you're like, how are you? Like, you're living on something else because your body is evil. You're living on evil. Like, because your body is like disintegrating before us.
Yes.
But somehow you managed to keep on to it.
Literally bones walking, and you're just like, you're right. It is something else. It's just, because it's just, I just cannot fathom what kind of life that must be like. Because I'm thinking at the end of the day, you have to go home and be with yourself. And what is that like? Like, what joy does that bring you? Like, at the end of I don't care how wealthy, how connected, how anything you are, how much access you have, at some point we all will not be here. And so I'm just like, what is the end goal? To live the most wicked life possible and then to not be here. So
it's, if you assume you're going to heaven, then you don't worry about what you do in this life, right? So like, they just assume, and I don't know. I at this point I'm like, well, I'm going to heaven because I've done my time in hell, because that's where we at. Like,
it's a live simulation.
It's really trippy. And so, I find myself just constantly having to sleep. To answer your question, I have to sleep in order to manage it. I don't know where I read the other day. I think it was The Warrior of Light, where it was like lack of sleep basically like makes you fight battles you've already fought. You've already won. Like, when you're tired,
rest is resistance. I love that book.
Yeah, like when you're tired, you be like, and then you take a nap or you eat and you're like, oh, I actually had already found the solution for that.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, you made I want to know, was it a conscious choice for you? Because as an actor, that's how I first, discovered you, but you also are an artist and a comedian and all of that. I feel like you have made a choice to walk across the hot coals that so many like people in public profiles avoid, which is, I'm going to speak out. I'm going to use my voice. And you've talked openly about this, like, why aren't more people like you crossing that fire, and why is it perceived to be a fire? But I wanted to ask you, like, what was that decision? Was it a decision, or was it just like, there's no other option for me, that I can't not be quiet when these things are happening?
I mean, I think what I've had to come to grips with is that it was more of a decision to be an actor.
Okay.
That you see what I'm saying? Like, that's actually it was the reverse. I was always this person. The decision was to go and act. But I've always been the outspoken person. Like when I was 3, I came home and was like, the teacher called us stupid. What's going to happen to her? What are we doing?
Wow.
Oh man, not toddler Amanda. I'd be terrified.
My mom said I was a very intense child. You know, like, and I wasn't a snitch. I was just like, that's unacceptable. And I will not accept the unacceptable. So what are we doing about it?
The injustice.
And the next day, my mom's came to the school, and I remember, like in my mind's eye, at 3 years old, seeing my mom come in. I don't know what she said, other than what she's told me, but I remember like her body coming into the room, and like the littleness of me, and seeing the bigness of that, and being like, what y'all gonna do
Watch
now?
your mouth.
Exactly. You cash the
What
check.
have you done to preserve that little girl? Because I feel like so many of us start that way, and then over time, I mean, I think Tiff and I have no problem speaking our minds now, but I definitely went through a phase where I was just silent from like 6 until 14, just scared and not wanting to ruffle. Yeah. So what do you credit for your ability to just like speak out and put yourself out there? I don't think we should take it for granted. It's impressive. It's a skill.
I didn't have an oppressive household. Had my father, like the type of person he is, had he lived in my house, I think I would have gone through that. But he didn't. And I feel like my mom was always very much like, you need to know your father. So, but it was never like, you need to like him. It was just like, I was never shaped. Like it was just kind of, you are given a space to decide like what you want. And that was like with my father, that was with like adults. Like I was always encouraged to have an opinion, to her chagrin, but I was always encouraged to have an opinion and to form an opinion. And I don't even know if I was as encouraged as much as like expected to synthesize in that way. And I think some of that was, you know, a thoughtfulness on my mom's part. And I think some of it was just her own like limitations of emotional maturity. But I think at the end of the day, it served me better than it hurt me in that respect, because it forced me to be in the world. And
where did you grow up?
Where did I grow up?
Yeah. East Coast,
LA
West Coast,
and Orlando.
I wonder if that, because I grew up in Georgia, and it was in a very like, in a household where the men were the talkers, you know?
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So there weren't a lot of like personal, and it was before like Instagram and social media. You had so much access to visually seeing women like yourself today. I caught up, fortunately.
You know who else I was seeing? I was seeing like Whitley Gilbert and Gina, and like pop culture was very present in my life. Like I was watching Claire Huxtable and Denise Huxtable. Like I was very, very lucky to be born at a time where we got to see just such a multitude of Black women on our screens. And that's why, you know, for us, pop culture is different than for white people, because pop culture, our characters exist in a way that is very real because it has managed to allow our stories to get told in ways that our actual stories were silenced, right? But like, I was watching Vivian Banks. Like I just, you know, these are women that I was seeing. And then I also had Black teachers. So like my first grade teacher was a Black woman, shout to Ms. Channel. My second grade teacher was a Black woman, shout to Ms. Sean Law Bowman. Like, I mean, I wanted to be these people. And so I think that's the thing. I have a journal from 4th grade where my 4th grade teacher, Miss Tellis, was leaving to move to Georgia. And I have an entry in there that says, "You were my only Black teacher at this school, and now you're leaving."
Oh. I still think about my only Black teacher, Miss Parks, 5th grade, when we had to move away.
It's real, right? That was when I moved to Orlando too. So it was really like, no, really, you're the only Black teacher at the school. Like,
do not leave me. So I have a question. Like, how is this one of the reasons? Like, how have you been able to navigate being like as bold as you are in this space where sometimes, especially with women, that like you get penalized financially? Like not being able to have access to grow.
I've never been penalized.
That's the story they want us to believe.
Correct.
No one will hire you.
Correct.
If you speak out.
Okay.
As someone who's been fired
and
for
listen,
speaking out.
I'm light skinned, so that could be part of it. But we also know that like you only light skinned until you open your mouth. Mm-hmm. And then you're whatever version of black they feel like. Like I'm James Baldwin black once I open my mouth.
So seen right now.
You know, yes. I am definitely 4C black once I open my mouth to the whites. Like
so
they're like,
that you were like you didn't get any opportunities or whatever as a result of like you showing up.
Not one that I wanted.
Okay.
So that's the thing. You know, a lot of it is perspective. Like I just decided I don't want anything that I can't be fully black at. Like I don't even like these Oscars, these Grammys. Like at one point it was like, that's a goal. And then I realized like, I don't care. I see everybody excited to go to the White House. I'm like, why? Like there's a certain misplaced prestige I feel that's attached to a lot of things that don't support blackness and don't support actually challenging things. You know, I'm very loud about us being loud and honest about the experience that we're having in this nation. You know, like I want to see that, and I want to see it being done when other people are being quiet. And I think that's why some people really rock with me, is because they've seen me be quote unquote impolite about that. I mean, I think that there was a certain point in time where a lot of people were telling me like, you know, you're going to lose this opportunity by being so outspoken, And I think a lot of people assign my outspokenness to blackness, also to an outspokenness of like, oh, she's difficult. So like they take that and then assign it to that. And I also am difficult. So then it's on top of that. Because if your shit isn't together, I just have no patience, and I'm supposed to be like really sweet and nice, and it's just like I'm irritated now.
I think we're all in that phase now.
This is like a lifestyle, baby. This is not a phase.
Yeah, that's
it's boundaries and expectations. There's nothing wrong, because I feel like women are taught to like I grew up in such a like weird dichotomy. Like my parents are Nigerian. My father is very, very Nigerian, which
extra-Nigerian.
Is like yes, with like, you know, very male-dominated society. You know, like this is just like. But he had all girls. There was 5 of us, and I remember distinctly when he sat me down and said, "So, I'm not going to have a son. Like we keep trying. It's just all these girls." And it was my expectation that if I have a son, I was going to pass on the knowledge, all the things to him. And then when I'm not here, I know that my son will look after my girls. But that's not going to happen. I remember him telling me, I have to now teach you like I would have taught my son.
Was he like proud to do it? Or was it like all right, well, nigga, fine.
Well, no, it was more like, I'm afraid if I don't, I can't be here for you always. So I'm going to have to teach you to manage your money. I'm going to have to teach you to change your oil. I'm going to have to teach you to be a boss. I'm going to have to teach you to be confident. So it was such a blessing, because it would not have happened, because that's just not part of the culture, you know? And so he poured all of that into, you know, so it's like I got to go into the world as like, I don't know if there's anybody more confident than a Nigerian man. I mean, literally, each of you would be 2 feet, 2 inches, and be like, I'm the most beautiful man. Nigerians are so we got to come into the world. I didn't even know. I used to be at school like, what do you mean? Like, I am the bride. Like, I'm like, oh wait, is that arrogance? I wasn't aware, just because. So that was the blessing. But then there's also this side of me that it was also very people pleasing, because there was still this other expectation that women are meant to be quiet, you know? So it was just such a struggle. So when I see you, like, I see like, you know, without restriction, you know, what Black girls can be when they're not afraid, you know, when they're not people pleasing, you know, when they set boundaries. And so like, I always say, I wish I could be my niece Amelia, because she's 6. My therapist is always like, what would Amelia do? Because she is a free Black girl. When I tell you, Amelia's like, I'm sorry, what? You can't talk to her any kind of way. You cannot, like, the other day I took her to the museum and she was literally looking at all the paintings and she was not impressed. She was asking me everyone's name, like, can you sound out that name for me? And then when we got back, she made a picture and said, I want to bring this back to the museum. I'm like, oh, to show the curator? She said, no, to put on the wall.
There it is.
It's better. Mm-hmm. That's what I mean. I want to be Amelia. I'm like, what? Because she was like, girl, I synced it, wasn't impressed.
Yeah, I saw it. I took it in, and you know, this is what
and my artwork is better. So you know, and so I just love that. When I see you, I see like what Amelia can be if I'm mindful not to hold her back and allow her to just be this free, beautiful Black girl. Yeah.
I mean, I will tell you, I was encouraged. I think that's like the thing. I was really encouraged. Like, and I wasn't participation award encouraged. It was just more so like, I was encouraged to try. I wasn't rewarded just for trying, but I was encouraged to try. And then if I didn't like something or it just wasn't my jam, I wasn't punished. And I think that's the thing. It's like, we don't need participation awards, but we just don't need to punish for failing, like for not winning, and identifying that there's like other things you can excel in. And for me, I think excellence was always presented to me as an individual, like, goal, not as an outward goal. And I think for a lot of Black folks, like, we identify excellence as like an attainment of a certain level of stature or status, or a certain level of money. Like, it's very capitalism based, right? It's very award based. Like, excellence to me is like just as much. So excellence to me can be like, you went to Columbia and you made it happen and like got your graduate degree. And excellence to me can also be like, you were an addict and you got like into the program and you are committed. And even though you've fallen off, you're getting back on. Like excellence is your own journey of continuing to try to make this life valuable. And I think that that's been like, for me, it's been experienced in a multitude of ways. And I've just had to, at this point, stick to my guns in what matters to me. And that's changed over the years, like particularly over the pandemic, like that really changed.
In what way? What were you striving for before that sort of changed?
I think I was striving for like a very traditional attainment of accomplishments. Like on this Hollywood path, like it's like a very traveled path. And it's very like, okay, you did this, now you do this now. You did this, now you do this now. And so it's kind of like, well, you did a TV show, now you need to be in a movie. You created your own web series, now you need to get a production deal. You put out a book, now it needs to be a bestseller. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's a very trodden path. And it's like, I really struggled with the fact that like, I was expected to be on this path, but it wasn't exciting.
But being an actor wasn't like you said, it was like something you decided to do, whereas being outspoken in activism was different. So was it sort of like a realizing
epiphany? Yeah. Yes. Sorry. Say what you're going to say, because I'm cutting you off. I apologize.
No, I was going to say, was it sort of like realizing, okay, I chose to go down this path, but I can choose also to change my mind again and go down a different way.
Yes. And I literally just experienced this again 2 days ago. Like literally 2 days ago. Because I randomly, it's funny how the universe, God, Dumbledore, whoever you want to talk to.
Not Dumbledore.
Yes, I'm like, hello, Hamora. It's just funny how you are tested, like you are really tested. And you're really, and tested is maybe not the word, but like, you're just kind of checked in on and like, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And if you're alert, you see it. And so I had a manager come into my space that is like a pretty high level Hollywood manager who was very enthusiastic about managing me. And he started speaking to the dark parts of myself. The parts that I don't honor anymore. He started speaking to the parts that, think attainment of wealth is going to really like mean something to me. He started speaking to the parts of me that wanted fame, right? That fame is maybe not the word, but that wanted a certain, what I was talking about before, that wanted these like elevated levels of visibility in this space. And they started waking up like, what? Yeah. And then but the parts of me that have found themselves in a much higher vibration were like, I don't know though. Like, I don't know. Y'all, I called everybody I know. Like, do I do this? Should I do this? And I ended up deading it. Like, I ended up deading it because he was like, really not. And here's a money thing for y'all. So in this business, these managers, it's an industry standard that when a manager starts managing you, they just take 10% of your business from that point forward. So whether, and sure, there may be things that have already been in place, so they're not going to get 10% of that, but that anything new that comes in, they're going to take 10% of that. Now, the problem with that is that there's a caveat, right? Because ultimately, the things that are coming in, you were not a part of attaining. And even if you are going to have a conversation with the people about them, even if you are perhaps going to organize the logistics of them, like, is that really a 10% job? 10% is a significant amount of money to be getting for just being here. And so my thing is, I don't feel like you should just get 10% of jobs that you did not bring in just because you are here. And I think it's a very fair expectation that if someone wants to be a partner in your business, that there should be a certain level of sweat equity aligned with Eat What You Kill. Right? That's to me what I think is fair. You can simultaneously get your 10% on anything you bring to the table, but demonstrate some sweat equity about the things that I'm bringing to the table and that are already here. And that I think can also allow us to have a fair exchange around learning each other. I'm not saying this has to be forever, but I think there's a fair amount of time. But they don't want to do that because they feel like, no, I'm at a certain position in this career that I deserve. You don't deserve anything of mine, actually. And that level of entitlement, anyone coming into your business with that level of entitlement, I think is going to be a problem. I think it's going to be a problem. And it's a good.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because I see it all the time, like now more and more, like in this creator society that we live in. So many of my friends in the financial space, I'm like, literally like, why do you have a manager? I remember thinking like, yes, what? And I was like, so I have a spokesperson agent. And anything she brings to me or anything I send to her, she gets her 15%. I'm like, hey, can you negotiate this thing? But other than that, my business is mine. If she doesn't negotiate it, she doesn't get. She's like, I can negotiate your speaking engagements. I'm like, oh, that's cute. Don't need you to do that. Because it's just literally like, can you come speak at Rutgers? Sure. You're not getting 15% to say that.
Can you come speak at Records? How much y'all got? And they have how much they have. Like, you might say, like, can you put 5 on it? And they like, we can put 2. All right.
So, and I understand that she knows that. So she's not negotiating that. But the parts are like, you're working with a brand. There's all these nuance. I'm like, let's throw that to her.
Yes.
And, but I tell my friends all the time, why do you have someone who literally gets a piece of every single thing that has nothing to do with them? And I didn't realize that was coming from like a kind of like the entertainment space. Even with book signing, I remember I was signing like my book deal, and in it, I had another attorney, like my friend who's an attorney, take a look at it too. She's like, no, this part of if you ever get a show or whatever, that your book agent gets part of it, take that out. Because maybe back in the day when there was no social media, like if I get a show, it's because of my 15 years worth of work, not because of this book. And so you have to be so careful, because I don't want to be, it's slavery, honestly, if you ask me. I don't want someone to eat off me indefinitely, forever and ever and ever and ever, and not have put in any work. I actually had a friend who had to buy back her business from her manager.
So that's what I was about to say. So he was like, okay, well, how about we do this? How about I'll work all in for 2 months, and then if it doesn't work, if you don't feel like it's working, I'll refund you any commissions that I paid you. I'll refund you any commissions that you paid me on things that you had brought in yourself. And, there's a part of you that's like, well, okay, it's worth a try, whatever. But ultimately, he wouldn't put it in writing, like not even in an email. I said I'd need it in writing. And he was like, well, let this text be our deal in writing. And I was like, no, I need it in writing. And he said, ha. We'll figure it out. And I was like, you know what? And I called my homegirl and she was like, absolutely not.
Doesn't part of you in that moment, because
she was like, he's too slippery and managers can sue you for commission.
Part of it too is like, even to be approached by someone of that, you think of that caliber, and they tell you who they work with. And part of that is it's that trap of going after things that have been, that are sort of like seen as being an attainment of success too. It sounds fancy to say I have a manager. I went through this recently trying to get a book agent, and having to really focus on the relationship and the people, and not so much like how lucky I am to be,
and they'll hold that over your head.
Yeah, like, oh, but you're with us. We're a big name and et cetera. And obviously I get to watch, Tiffany, and she's, steps ahead of me, and it's really helpful. And it's good to hear you too. You have those girlfriends or friends that you turn to for advice in those moments, because if we had to figure it out alone, I think that's how mistakes get made. And that's how you end up selling your soul to the devil.
I have friends that remind me who I am. You know, sometimes you have all parts of you, you know what I'm saying? So I have girlfriends who sometimes will like say something back to me and I get to hear it and I'm like, oh, that sounds crazy. Okay, yeah, now I understand. When I said it in my head, it didn't sound like that. But now that you're saying it to me,
it sounds crazy. Yes. Yeah. No, I love that. I don't know where we would be. I always say that, like, what do people do without sister girlfriends?
Well, you know, listen, a lot of folks are really out here and they don't feel like they can talk to anybody and they don't trust anybody. And that's usually because they have been wronged, you know, and I get it, man. It took me a while to get sister girlfriends too. I mean, also say like, I feel like I had homegirls, but it's taken me a while to like find people that I think understand like particularly how the business and my individuality and my identity all align, right? Because there's friends that I don't call for that, you know, but then there's friends that I feel like have a very intrinsic understanding, particularly of the uniqueness of being a public figure whose business is based on your point of view and the way that can sometimes become conflicted and how you have to really be thoughtful about the ethics and about the optics, and you can get taken down a road sometimes. And you have to check, you have to self-check, you have to be holistic in your approach of like, wait a minute, let me make sure all the points of this make sense. I remember there was a brand that wanted me to be their spokesperson for an initiative they were doing on changing the definition of the word black. And I was just like, yeah, like I don't really feel like I'm the right person for that. And they were like, why? I was like, well, one, because I'm light skinned. So that's already going to be a problem. So let's start there. And I was like, so unless I'm going to be with like a spectrum of folks, this is already going to be a problem. I said, but two, I don't know that this is necessary. Like it feels very performative other than actual like action-based thing. And I know that, you know, that there's this thought process, like, yes, language and language has power, et cetera, et cetera. But I was like, you know, the people that we are really fighting, they call us many other names. So changing the definition of the word black, I don't think is going to disrupt the way they're disrupting.
Yeah, they're not changing their definition of black.
Correct.
Or treatment in any way.
Facts.
This conversation has been amazing and we're going to continue, but we have to pay some bills, but we're going to be back and black and funny and smart.
Smart, funny, and black. Be right back, BA fam. And we are back with more of our candid conversation with the one, the only Amanda Seales, BA fam. You don't want to miss it. I want to point out a couple of things that we have in common with you, Amanda, because I realized you recently went to Kenya. Right?
Yes.
I saw you for a second. You probably don't remember me. I was outside of this hotel. Yeah, you
saw her in Kenya?
I did. It was literally I was standing outside and like with this other beautiful black woman, and you were like, "Girl, yeah." I just loved your affirmation. You were like, "You guys look fly," and then you walked into the hotel. Yes, I saw you for like a brief second. I know, and I love it. I was like, Amanda Seales told us that we looked fly. Yes. Affirming black women, no matter where you go, because you literally stopped and was like, "Oh, yes, all of this." Yeah, so yeah, I saw you for a brief second.
Wait, where? That's hilarious because that lets you know, like, I really be on that.
Like, yeah, you do. Yes,
which hotel was that? The hotel by the game reserve?
Yes. So it was this beautiful. It was Nairobi. Right.
And it has like all the like giant sculptures of the animals.
Yes. Yep.
I know exactly.
Yep.
Hilarious. That's wild.
I know.
What are the odds of that?
I know. Literally, I thought to myself.
Before we booked you, I think.
Yeah, it totally was. But I thought to myself, like, you know, because, you know, there's some people you see out in the wild and, you know.
Literally like.
Yeah. But, you know, they're like what you see of them on social media or whatever is not what you receive. You know, and that was not it at all. You know,
well, that's why you asked something earlier. One of you asked something earlier where it was you asked like, how do you how do you like keep going? You know what I'm saying? How do you stay true to this when there's sometimes maybe, you know, financial implications that will say, well, we're not going to do this because you talk like this, etc. But ultimately, like, I really am my full self, like at all times. So I don't really get tired because I'm not really putting on, you know, and I think that's why
no charade to keep
saw
up.
me in the wild. And it was exactly, I mean, I feel like I get a bad rap from social media. I think I'm much more, because I mean, I'm on social media and I'm a lot of times talking about shit that pisses me off. And there's a lot in the world that I feel like I'm calling attention to. And I'm talking into a phone, but people think I'm talking to them. So like, even when I got to the reel, it was like, oh, well, we're just afraid that you're going to be confrontational. And I'm like, when have you ever seen me like get at somebody, attack somebody? When? And no one had an answer. Crickets. And I was like, stop acting like my phone.
I was on the reel when you were on the reel.
Yes.
Yes. And I mean, it was great. You know, like, yeah. So
people are psychos, you know.
But I commend you for walking away from that too. And I feel like that was another example of like, you were like, let me try this on for a minute. And then this is not for me. Because that's seen as like, I mean, to be on a talk show, to be on the reel, this is like amazing. You know, everyone's like, oh, she's made it. You know, it wasn't just Insecure. It's all this stuff. She got this comedy special. She's on the reel. But you walked away from it. And I do want to talk about the business side, because I feel like from that point, or was it already in the works? You were working on this like media empire business. Like, you're going to produce your own stuff, create your own content. Which is that journey, I feel like from the outside looking in, you've been on ever since then with your comedy special, the game show. Is that part of a broader, you know, I want to own my ish movement on your end? Or has it just kind of happened that way?
A bit of both. I mean, I think I've always been, even before I had words for it, I've always been very ownership driven. And I remember when I was getting removed unjustly from the Conservatory of Theater Arts and Film at SUNY Purchase, I found myself sitting on the floor and I was just like, dang, like, I'm not going to get to do Chekhov. And then I was like, that's fine.
Because what happened? I didn't know this.
Yeah, I was in the acting conservatory at Purchase my freshman year, and then a dude lied on me and got me kicked out. And because he was trying to not, because they do cuts every year, so he was trying to not get cut. So he was like, if I sacrifice somebody, then that like raises my chances of not getting cut. But by the way, he still got cut because he's not a good actor. But I ended up, they told me to take a year off, and then I ended up just creating my own major and saying, go fuck yourselves. But I was, in my sophomore year, you do all Chekhov. And I remember saying to myself, like, oh my gosh, you're not going to get to do Chekhov. And then saying to myself, you know what? That's okay, because you like your voice better. I remember a little voice in the back of my head saying that. And that was when I had started doing spoken word. And I was really finding my own like creative voice. And here we are, when that era of the reel and the book and everything was happening, it was the first time that I was like being understood. It was the first time I ever felt like creatively understood. Now, simultaneously, it was also the first time I had ever had that much visibility. And so there's also things that come along with that. And I think I got over comfortable with the fact that I was being creatively understood in thinking that I would be socially understood. And so there were two situations that happened that year that like really changed me in terms of my consciousness around like how I'm existing in the world with my peers and also in the internets. And I ended up saying to myself, like, so to answer your question, it wasn't a strategy. It was more so just like, this was like the next step of things and they kind of all converged at one time. And then over the course of the pandemic is when it became a strategy. Over the course of the pandemic, and I had a lot of time alone and by myself, and really also just having to figure out how to keep making this bread. You know, how do you continue to do so in a way that doesn't drain you and doesn't put you in the same situations that you were in before? And so I tried some things. I created an app that was a community called SFB Society. And I mean, it was a really good experience, and I'm really glad that we went that route and tried it. Shout out to everybody who was ever a SFB Society member, but I didn't know what I was doing. And really what I needed was a community manager. And I didn't even have a word for that at the time. I just and so it ended up going to the wayside. And that was a whole decision, even just to decide to let it go. I started doing apparel for a second. I dropped a line called Illustrious League, and then realized like, oh, apparel is not something you can dabble in. This is an entire existence. And the person I was working with was an entire fraud. So like, you can't have a fraud running the business. So I had to let that go. So like during this time, I was trying out these different ventures that I essentially was, if I'm honest with myself, if I'm honest with the podcast.
Safe space.
I was trying them out, I think subconsciously, to see if there was another route outside of this Hollywood thing for me to go that was organic and that would give me financial security. And
was that because you just didn't find fulfillment in the acting or the Hollywood side?
Well, these people are shitty and trash. So yeah, like this is a shitty trash town. And listen, I mean, the industry standard is people can just come and take 10% of your business without any level of proof, like without any level of effort. Like that's the type of stuff that I'm dealing with. So, and, you know, like realizing that like my peers, you know, even realizing that Black Hollywood was just simply not the sisterhood, brotherhood that I thought it was going to be. It was a slap in the face. And so, you know, I had these, I guess, visions of safety that were no longer realized. And it made me say, I need to change how I interact with this place. And some people say, if you can't beat them, join them. But I don't want to join them. So it's like, how do you know, then they say, well, okay, you know, if you want to play the game, right? People always tell you, you got to play the game. You know, if you're in the game, you got to play the game. So then you have to figure out, okay, if I want to still do this work, then I do have to acknowledge that there is a game being played. So then how do I change how I play the game? And I'll use a baseball metaphor. Because
go easy on us.
I am not a baseball fan, but I love baseball movies. And if you look at a movie like Moneyball, it wasn't necessarily a foolproof success, but it was the mind state of, if we don't have the players, how do we still play? And we have to change how we approach. Everybody else is approaching it this way. Let's approach it a different way. And so really it's just a mind state of saying, let me find another way to approach. And I don't think enough of us think that way, to be honest. Like within Hollywood, I don't think a lot of us think that way. We really feel like there's only one way you can do it. And you're told over and over and over again, there's only one version of success. There's only one way you can do it. And I came up in hip hop, and there's so many versions of success in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? There's Jay-Z. And then there's J-Live. You know, there's people who have made very full, honest, and joyful careers out of being able to do what they love that may not consider success to be, oh, I'm a billionaire. For them, success is like, I get to do what I love. Like I get to be happy. I get to have autonomy. So that's the thing. I've come to a place where I understand that my joy is in autonomy ultimately, and not being in the chase. I have no desire to chase down the opportunities that I feel like I can make for myself. And for some people, that is for some people, they're like, if I don't have a show that's as big as Abbott Elementary, then I haven't achieved success. And at one point in time, I felt that way. Whereas now I feel like, as long as I can have enough money to take care of the people I love, to make the work I want to make, and to give to the platforms and the efforts that matter to me, like education and animal conservation, and, you know, the folks that I know that are maybe falling on tough times, and I can give them $1,000 and it's not going to break me, but I know that it's going to like be a game changer for them. As long as I can do that, I'm fine. Like, not even fine. I'm genuinely happy. Small doses. We produce small doses in my house. Okay. Like,
isn't it the best?
Yes. We were doing the podcast forever and I just decided, you know what, we need to do visuals. And I just looked around my house and figured out, okay, this is where we can do it. And, you know, the hardest part is really not about figuring out your own vision. It's finding the people who can help you in realizing that. Yeah. My radio show, we do right here in my house. And that's
on Sirius, right?
No. It's not on Sirius. It's a syndicated radio show. And it is called The Amanda Seales Show. It's on Radio 1 and it's with Radio 1 and Reach Media. It's a syndicated radio show. We're in 7 markets right now, and you can also listen to it every day wherever you get your podcasts. And, you know, we're in process. Like, we're growing. I just got a new co-host, and it's just, I say all that to say that perspective is really the thing.
I'm really glad that you said that. And especially from someone who, like, from the outside looking in, as a fan of Insecure and what it meant for me as a, you know, a biracial woman, and so many of, you know, I feel like just Black women in general, to see that representation, it really is heartbreaking to feel like that wasn't the same experience for someone who went like on the other side. Like, did you feel like everyone is praising and loving this show, but my experience has been maybe not? Like, do you not look back on those years and feel like, oh, I was a part of this amazing thing? Does it sort of tainted by maybe some of the stuff that you had to go through on the Hollywood side?
Well, I think there's just two different things. I mean, there's the work and then there's the experience of making the work. Like, the final product is what it is, but the process of that doesn't necessarily have to be the thing. Like, people will tell you it's a very different feeling climbing Everest than being on top. Like, I'm sure, you know, like, the climb is one thing, and then you get to the summit and you're like, wow, this feels amazing. You're like, boy, but that climb, boy, that was rough. That was a rough ride. So yeah, they're two different things. My experience at Insecure was not reflective of the joy that people got watching the show.
Man. Well, I'll
write a book about it one day.
I'm sure you will, but I thank you for your service, because that's my comfort show. Thank you for struggling, so I could have something to do at 2 a.m.
I would never consider it struggle. But the sisterhood that was represented on screen just wasn't represented off screen.
Well, the thing that you and Tiff had in common, you were recently in Kenya. The thing that you and I have in common is we have both collectively pissed off the AKAs. I just have to, me not to the extent of you, and I will never feel.
Let me correct you. I did not piss off the AKAs.
You did, yes.
My character,
to be
Tiffany Dubois.
How fucking dare you? To this day, I cannot look at pink and green. It's just okay. Because I'll tell you really quick this story. I was a journalism major, graduated in 2009. I was a reporter at the Red and Black at the University of Georgia. AKAs were disbanded. They got like their certification, whatever. They couldn't be at UGA for a while. There was some scandal with hazing, I think. And I was covering their comeback in 2008. The AKAs are back on campus. Okay. I'm a journalist. I know you appreciate journalism. I saw your IG about what is journalism. Mm-hmm. I'm here to tell the truth. Yep. I'm a Black woman covering this story. I want to see us win, but I can't ignore the fact that there's a reason why.
Yeah, like you weren't here for a reason.
When I tell you, when I turned that story into my Black editor-in-chief, who was an AKA, and she had like a band of 3 or 4 different AKA members there looking over her shoulder, telling you what I had to take out of my story, and had to go up the chain to get the truth kept in the story. Yeah, I definitely was blacklisted after that. It was not cute. I just wanted to say I have felt a tiny smidge of what it is like to upset and all that they stand for. I value, respect all of that, but I was not treated very nicely. I'm sorry. I apologize for what you had to go through too.
I'm sorry. I mean, listen, I always have AKAs come up to me and they're like, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. I always feel the need to say, it wasn't me. Yeah. It wasn't me. So yeah, listen, it is what it is. I mean, I think, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's good for people to hear that, like going after your dreams, that there are components, because I think like social media entrepreneurs make everything seem like it's sunshine and lollipops. It's beaches. It's working 2 hours a week.
Girl, everyone with the computer at the pool, I'm like,
I can't. I'm like, it's like I don't never have to work. It's
because you work because you don't ever have to work because you work for somebody and you're not doing the actual job right.
Yes,
that's why.
You are lying and you are working.
That's what I'm saying.
A week and yes.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like you are. Here's the thing: I have been with people who I'm like, they're like, take my picture by the pool, and then they're like, I got to go back up to the hotel room because I'm going to basically lock myself in to do the work.
Why are we doing this?
I don't know.
Why? What's that? What is that? Honestly, though, I'm like, that's a genuine question. Why the front? Who's it for?
That people think that I don't know why people think that somehow if you work hard for the thing, it diminishes the value of the thing. I'm not really sure where
you're
that
right.
Isn't
they
that
want to
so
sell the idea that it's easy so that people will pay for whatever they're selling, honestly.
I think there's also something to be said for this idea, though, that like, if I got it easily, that it's a representation of like my dopeness or my flyness or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it is. Like
I didn't get none of this easy. Let me tell you right now.
It's the accolade of like, wow, you're so amazing that like, you yourself are like, everybody else, the others have to work hard, but not you because you're so, I don't even think it's necessary to upsell or sell. It's really just to upsell or sell the image of yourself that you are othered, you are special, you're set apart.
Now see, remember we said perspective? To me, I'm like, you are special because you are doing what you want to do. And if you want to work for somebody, that's you doing what you want to do. If you want to work for yourself, that's you doing what you want to do. To me, it's like, are you reliable? Like, do you follow through? Do you have a good, like, do you, like, cause there's really a movement right now of like, I don't want to work. And I'm like, I don't know how. What I would love to see a movement of is I want to feel fulfilled in my work. That's a movement, right? Because I think this idea that you would beget from not sowing the seed is not practical, right? Like and I know that people are like, well, you need to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, they say that rich people don't work. And it's like, they don't work because they're exploiting people.
Yeah. Preach.
That's why they don't work. So is that what you aspire to? Do you aspire to be able to exploit people so that you don't have to work? Because that's not what I aspire to. I aspire to being able to work smart enough to where I can have real pockets of time off where I'm not subconsciously stressing, right? Like but that doesn't mean I don't have to work. I remember yesterday I said to myself, you're going to have to work really hard tomorrow. So sit out here and enjoy this hour of time, knowing that you're going to commit yourself to working hard tomorrow. And I'm going to feel good about it. Like, because it's hard to, as someone who owns a company and you have to hire folks, it's hard hiring in an environment where people, I don't want to use the language that's now become buzzworthy of like, nobody wants to work. I don't want to use that language, but I do think that there isn't enough of a distinction between doing fulfilling work and just doing a job.
Yeah. Believe me, I'm a career coach. The quiet quitting, I have so many thoughts about that. And the bare minimum Monday. And I get, it's like we've taken it too far. I believe that there is this beauty of like people like Tiffany, for example, has been such an amazing example of embracing the soft life and being successful without sacrificing your values, sacrificing your sanity, getting self-care wrapped into it. And then there's this idea that if you work hard, you are somehow selling out or you're not doing. And it's like, but if you, it's people, we just need to teach people how to find their own path, perspective, right? What your path is.
Yeah.
And then of course, fighting for that and working hard for that. Then it doesn't feel like I am working in a vacuum. I'm working for someone else. I'm working toward a cause that I don't believe in. When you can find the thing that you want to be doing, it's work and it feels good.
And you can work. The thing is that like, because people ask me all the time, because I am like semi-retired now, but that's because I busted my ass for 15 years, too much. So honestly, I overworked, like where like my blood pressure was like, so we're going to have a heart attack, just so you know. Like it was like I overworked. And so now when I talk to like my mentees and things, I'm like, having your own business and things like that, you're going to have to work hard, but let me show you how to bake in rest. had to bake in, because I didn't know how to do that. I
Take
was
a lunch
7 days a week. Yeah. When I tell you, literally, every second of the day, I don't care if I was on the toilet, there was never a moment that I was not. And so I was like, that's not, I understand that there's hard work, but I had to learn to be like,
take a lunch, have an end of day.
Yes, yeah, because there was no end of day. Literally, sometimes I would wake up 3 o'clock and I'm like, oh, don't forget all my to do. I had my phone next to me, to do list, and so I'm like, that's actually not the ideal. And it, I had to really learn to dial it back, and also too, I had to learn what is the end goal. I'm pretty frugal, and so I lived off of not all that I made, and I got financial help, even though this is what I do. I knew the doctor needed a doctor. And so I'm like, okay, now I'm in a position where I don't have to do, I didn't have to do all that I did, but I've actually know that now. And I can live from a space of you know what? I've taken care of my family and friends. Everyone for the most part is good and healthy. And I still love to do the work. I love to teach Black women about money, but I don't have to break my back, which is what I believed before, that in order to and I'm to what end, to what end?
I feel like it's two extremes. On one hand, so if you have an immigrant parent, they're if you're enjoying your job, then you're not really working. Yeah. Yes. You should not be enjoying your job. How dare you?
Suspicious.
Very.
It's sus.
Yeah. And then on the flip side, it's the vibe right now is if you are working, you being played.
Yeah, yes. I hate that.
And I am just when I saw the stay-at-home girlfriend movement start happening, I was like, I guess I'm officially of a different time.
Because here's the thing. I think people think my husband passed away a little under 2 years ago. And the world will tell you, get married, do all the things, and it'll all work out. And the truth of the matter is, even if you have this amazing partner and things things happen. So what do you do when you place your whole life in the hands of someone else? It is literally my worst nightmare for someone to be in charge of me fully. And so I cannot imagine placing my whole financial life.
People love it. Look at Latasha Scott of Escape. People love it. But it's codependency, and that's what we have been trained to be.
I mean, to each her own.
Yes, I'm not here to judge, but I'm just take care of yourself. I mean, every adult should be able to take care of themselves. That's my thing.
I really feel like it's less about judgment and more about just educating, because I think for a lot of women, we are shown one version of things. And then we grow up and we decide that version is the only version. And then we start telling other women that they're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. And ultimately, I just feel like any scenario where somebody has power over you is not the best scenario to be in. And that's a blanket statement. It's just not. And if you're working for somebody, yes, they are providing you your salary, right? They're providing you your money, but you have the power within yourself to save, to make sure that if they decide to pull a carpet out from under you, that you are not completely left out in the cold, right? Also, you want to be able to file repercussions if need be. But I just think that there's an awareness that we have to have for the fact that we have agency and that no one's coming to save you. No one's coming to save you.
No one's coming to save us. People look for security in their jobs, but it's security in I tell them all the time, it's you are your own security. You have to be. Resiliency is something that.
So I'll tell you this, even when I was doing Insecure, one of the biggest things that I held myself to was making sure that I continued to build my own world while I was on that show. Because what happens is you get on a show that's that big, and now you put all your eggs in that basket, and you just become attached to that project, and you stop building what you were building before because now you went over here and you made it, right? You made it. But then that's going to come to an end at some point, right? And then when it comes to an end, you go back to your stuff, and your stuff is like ancient ruins. Like it hasn't advanced. And so now you got to like do catch up. So I really held myself to making sure that I never stopped building my dream while I was being a part of building Issa's. And there's something to, there's something to that really like also gives you a certain level of foundation. So even when you're in a job that maybe isn't like showing up for you the way that you want it to in all these other spaces, when you keep building in your own space, it does allow you to have this other respite. And it really like helps with the mental health of things to know that you have this other, not just your home, but you have this other career home to go to, so to speak. Yes. Right. And so I built Smart, Funny, and Black up during that time. And I never forgot about it. I never let it become a side piece. Yeah. And I'm really proud of myself, y'all. I'm really proud of myself about that because it's still going. We have Smart, Funny, and Black on May 18th at the Novo, and I don't even have a comedy agent right now. I don't have any bookings right now. I'm in the process of really being independent, y'all. It's a new level of independent right now because your girl got to create and figure out how to get her own bookings and her own shows with my team. And this is a new space that I'm venturing in. And I really honestly feel like it's like, again, God, the universe, Dumbledore is just pushing me and saying like, how you've been doing it hasn't worked. And if you keep trying to do it that way, you're on Confucius's list of insane people that keep doing things the same way and expecting a different outcome. So try some other shit. Try. Yeah. And you can get your tickets, by the way, to Smart, Funny, and Black at amandaseals.com. It's going to be Wayne Brady versus Jaleel White. It's going to be amazing.
Yes! What? I love that. Well, that's actually, I was going to say, like, yeah, this is the promotional component. Like, where can people find you? Where can people support you?
Everywhere. But tell them where you There's no way you're not at.
You can, the hub is amandaseals.com, and that'll take you to my Patreon, the Amandaverse. For $5 a month, you get extended content from our podcast, Small Doses. You get extended content from the other stuff I'm doing, like Amanda Reacts. We also do a series called Watch With Me on my Patreon where I watch shows and you watch me watch the shows. And if you know me, my commentary is its own show. So right now, the show that we're watching is SWV and Escape Queens of R&B, which I thought was going to be a show about 90s R&B. And it's actually a show about toxicity and the need for therapy within families. So that's a show that we're watching. You can also check me out on Amanda Seals TV on YouTube. Really excited to have launched that space and to be creating content within that space. And it's just so wild to, as an adult, you forget that you can still impress yourself. And these victories become few and far between when you get older, right? Like when you're younger, it's like, I got into college, I got in the cheerleading squad, I got a man, I got like you have a lot of victories, right? And then you get older and it's like, I don't know the last time that I was real excited about something. Yeah, when did I win? And
something your mom can hang on the wall.
Yeah, it's like, And so with the YouTube, it's something that I've invested my time, I've invested my money in, I've invested my vision in, and we're starting to see growth. Like we grew 25,000 subscribers in 6 weeks.
Okay.
And
is it a scripted series on YouTube, or what are you doing? Just your own show?
So we have Small Doses on YouTube, the visuals of Small Doses. We also have my travelogue coming soon, which is Amanda on the Move. We also have Amanda Reacts. So we have me reacting to Black pop culture moments, like when TLC was at the Grammys and said, "We're broke." That was reacting to the Strawn J, "You don't want these pussy" scene in Boomerang, etc. etc. We also have a series called Rebels and Radicals on there where I basically break down quotes from iconic rebels and radicals of our time that I'm actually going to reimagine as more, I think I want to reimagine it as more for YA. there's a part of me that feels, not a part of me, there's a large part of me that understands that our young people are our rebels and radicals, and really like aligning them with the folks that came before them and reminding them or just alerting them to like, no, you right.
Am I not young people anymore? Am I past my... Am I not? I don't think I'm YA anymore.
Nope. You're not a Z, are you? No. I'm a millennial.
So that's like the YouTube space was something I looked at as very beneath me, and I was wrong. I looked at it like, oh, that's like influencers. Like that's YouTubers. I'm not a YouTuber. And, here on a podcast that's about entrepreneurship, I had to get over myself and understand that I was absolutely ridiculous in saying that, because what YouTube was creatives who were entrepreneurs. That's what it is. And I did not respect that, and I'm ashamed.
Quinta Brunson started on Vine, okay?
I did not. Yeah, but she didn't start as an entrepreneur, and that's the thing.
Is true.
So it's like there's one thing to be a creative; it's another thing to understand creativity in commerce. And I've had to really learn. I've had to choose to be a businesswoman. It wasn't something I wanted to be, y'all. It was something I've had to learn to be, and I've had to find the ways in which I can be a businesswoman that still feel natural to me, that still feel, that don't feel like a contradiction of my integrity, right? Like it is important to me to do my best version of ethical capitalism, which in many ways is an oxymoron. So it's like, how do you do that? Well, you make sure that everything you create serves the people in some shape, way, or form. That's one. Two, you make sure that you are always giving financially to spaces that need it. Always. Like I give damn near every day to something. If I'm not paying for a cat's cancer surgery, I'm paying for kids to go. I'm paying for kids to go to school in Kenya. If I'm not paying
22, right?
28.
28. Wow.
If I'm not donating to Scarface's campaign when he was running for office, I'm over here, trying to create a Smart Money in Black show for free in Nashville that will help continue to amplify the Tennessee 3, as well as the Black folks in these towns that are not being spoken for. So like that's a part of the efforts, right? And I'm finally getting to a point in my career where I'm established enough to understand that is the direction I want to go in. And so when that manager came along, I really feel like it was that mark on the road, that part on the path where you're met with a stranger, and it's a spirit check to decide what are you really aligned with. And depending on your answers is going to determine what that path becomes. And literally the next day, I had a coincidence happen that was so wildly coincidental that it was like, okay, you're back on your path. You're back on your path. And right now my path feels more than ever about how do I make sure that I am available for the revolution that is at hand.
Amanda, it's been honestly, this has been like I think you've been our best. Well, no shade to any other people we've interviewed. I'll just say top 3, and you guys can guess the other 2. Top 3, she ain't 2 or 3. Appreciate that.
I feel like you could be our 3rd co-host, honestly.
Honestly. Thank you so much for spending time with us, for sharing your energy, your light, your laughter, your knowledge, your grace, just, and your Blackness. Honestly, I love it. Just thank you so much for coming today.
Thank y'all.
Thank you for giving us time. We really, really appreciate it. Don't take it for granted at all.
No, I really appreciate it. And I also appreciate being called a businesswoman, because that
you truly are.
Has been a real learning curve. And for anyone out there who is pursuing entrepreneurship and leadership, please be patient and graceful with yourself. It is Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, can I ask if you have any mentors in this space that you have? We talked about sister friends and how you have to collect new ones as you go to different. Okay.
I've tried.
You're figuring it out on your own. I love it.
Well, you know what it is I was never, how do I put it? in my upbringing, in my like training, I was not treated softly. And so I didn't truly start to understand the value of that in leadership until I was in leadership, right? And I've had to really learn how to be a more effective leader in softness, without it being weakness. Because that was the thing. It was like whenever I was trying to do that, it was actually translating as weakness. And so then it was ineffective. So it's been working on how to get the best from people. And I want to be clear. It's not about getting the most. It's getting the best, because ultimately that is what makes folks feel good about the work, especially when you're able to synthesize something that they didn't even know they had. We have an editor right now that came on as part of my internship. And I mean, Calvin is one of the most gifted editors I have ever witnessed in my entire life. And he does not do this as a career. Like, it's a side job, And I am like, can we get this YouTube popping so I can just pay Calvin to quit his job so he can just do this full time? Because he is so brilliant. I just feel like he shouldn't have to do anything but this. And so I say that just because I don't think people really understand. And I can say this as someone who has been both in leadership and been an employee. We just don't understand the true difficulty in in what it is. I really I have been on both sides of that, and running a business is hard. Managing people is harder. Y'all. And being a person
tell us the truth. Yes.
Well, just being a person being managed, right? Sometimes you got to get over yourself because you're like, I need this and I need that. And you're like, this is a small business. This is one person running this. Can I maybe be a bit more forgiving? Can I maybe gracious? I know for me, sorry, I was running. I know for me, one of the things that was very frustrating in this business of trying to create my own content was really getting people to understand I am not NBC. Stop treating me and having the expectations of me as an individual trying to make something. Stop trying to have the same expectations of me that you would have for a studio. Help me out. And I don't mean help me out do this shit for free. That's not what I mean. I just mean have a little patience with me. Just have a little grace. Have a little understanding of the fact that I'm trying, man. I'm just trying to do something. And sometimes when you aren't the person who does that, you're not seeing that. You're just I need to protect myself. And the last thing I'll say is this. I feel like in our efforts as Black folks to protect ourselves professionally, we are harder on other Black folks than we are on white people. That has been my experience. Now, I know that I can say that because I've had many other people tell me that has been their experience too. And there's a fear and a distrust that we have for each other that I genuinely don't think we be having for them. And it's
the white man's water is colder, right? White man's ice is colder, right?
I don't know what that is. But I want us when we're in these spaces to try our best to check that. Sometimes you're right. Because sometimes it is oh, that's not my kinfolk. That's the skin folk. That ain't my kinfolk sometimes. But sometimes it really is why are you doing this? Because I know when I saw you over there at Day Show, you wasn't doing that. Why?
Why are we being so hard on each other?
Yeah. So shout out to everybody who's doing it. Who's doing it, trying to make it happen.
Brown Ambition is a space where we represent the antithesis of that. And I'm so glad that you spoke on that too, because I feel like we have to give grace to ourselves before we can give it to others. And part of that just comes from how bad are you treating yourself? So to hear that you've learned, through leadership, that it doesn't mean weakness to be empathetic and to give grace and to give space, and to give people the benefit of the doubt. It's not weak. It's great leadership. And it's also good for yourself because you can then turn around and give that in return to yourself.
You can apologize, when you mess up.
Yeah. Y'all should try it.
I mean, I had to apologize to somebody while we was doing this podcast. Like, ooh, my fault, my bad.
Why do I feel like you've written a screenplay? You've posted like 5 things on IG.
Amanda is multitasking.
But I'm watching the eye contact and I don't.
She's good.
And I don't think you're going to forget any of this.
She does I social posts, let in the cleaning people.
I hired somebody.
Yeah, what do you like on a date? That's what
I hired somebody while we've been doing this podcast, just so you know. And I hope that at no point in this podcast you felt like I wasn't paying attention because I was, and I have been. I've been locked in. But I realized that I had told somebody you'll hear from me on Monday, and they didn't hear from me, and I'm like, they have to hear from me on Tuesday. Then they came, so. But this has been a delight. You all are delightful, and thank you again. And I just think it is super wild that I saw you in Kenya and didn't even know. That's gonna literally 5 hours from now I'm gonna be like, that's crazy. That jumbo. Look at that. Y'all, everyone goes to Kenya and learns those 3 things. Yes. Jumbo, Habari Ghana, Asante Sana. And then you feel like, I'm African. I'm out here. I'm in Kenya. This is a different kind of thing. No, really. That's hilarious. You all have a great one.
Imani, I want to name this. This is our producer. Let's name it. Smart. What is it?
Smart, Funny, and Black.
Yeah, Smart, Funny, and Black. That's what I want to name this episode with Amanda Seals. Smart, Funny, and Black.
I need that sweatshirt ASAP.
Well, if I could figure out merch, because it is. Yeah, merch is the great white whale for me. Every time I try it, and I tried. It's like that Cat Williams bit where he's like, you trying shit won't work. Trying shit won't work. Trying shit won't work. That's me and merch. It's just, I have yet to find a company or a process that
distribution. Yeah.
What about Miss B? What's the brand that you partnered with, Tiffany, for your shirts?
Girl, it was a hot mess too. You see that? I don't have no merch because that's everybody struggles with merch. I'm like, girl.
Hey, BA fam, we could not do this show without your support or the support of our team behind the scenes. The Brown Ambition podcast is produced by Imani Crosby, and Dennis Stemplinsky is our in-house tech guru. I am your co-host, Mandy Woodruff-Santos, and we will see y'all next week, BA fam.
Dissecting politics with exclusive interviews, commentary, and humor. Useful Idiots with Katie Halper and Aaron Mate.
Check out this story that comes via wedding planner Georgia Mitchell. I'd say that's a deal breaker if you were to catch your partner being breastfed by their mother. The thing is, she's hearing this secondhand, so we really...
The responsible journalist in you, Aaron. It's just an allegation.
Yeah. None of my sources have confirmed this story.
Right.
So...
Terrible if true, and definitely a deal breaker.
Useful Idiots, wherever you listen.